Yes, so there has been a turn of events yesterday. After I did the session that I recorded, and so after all of this happened with the telecommunication guys that came from the main telecommunication company in Germany, the biggest one, and that the way they had presented it to me was that if I don't shift over to them because I'm with a different company, uh, and because the cables are gonna change the cables, there's gonna be an upgrade, into the highest, uh, fastest kind of cable. And if I don't do it now with them, at the door there with them, if I didn't do it then, I would have to do it by myself, the switch over, because, that's exactly how I got it from the guy, the way he described it. And then I would have to pay it all myself, and it would be a big hassle, and the line that I'm on now wouldn't be serviced. And I asked him, did I understand this correctly? This is what I understand you said, blah, 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 blah. And he said yes. So, and still, even though at the end I was like, well, if this is the way it is, and the whole time it was going so fast, he was speaking fast, lots of information. In between, he was giving me compliments. Anyways, this sounds like, wow, you could feel that it's a scheme, but he was, and I would say I'm not so easily persuaded at all, I'm very careful. But he was genius, though I must say, he was genius the way he presented it all, and presented himself. First, later on, all those little dots were like, why did he say, oh, don't worry, we don't want your money? That at that moment there was like, that's weird. I mean, it's just about money. So, anyways, that whole situation that I had signed a contract standing in front of my door in the hallway outside of my apartment, because of the way it was presented to me and where I was at with my state of consciousness at the time, I was like, well, it's obvious I have to switch over because otherwise I will have negative consequences if I don't, and I will have to pay. I will have to pay. It will be financial consequences and hassle. Hassle also in that I won't have functioning internet. So, but when I came, as I said in the session, when I came back in the door, I was, my heart was racing the whole time, and my belly, and it had triggered such a deep fear. So that's what the session was about, to really, really go into that, make contact, feel it, receive it, hold space for that fear, to look at it, what just happened, why do I have terror in my body after I signed this contract? It's a 2-year contract. And so, there was many layers to it, and all of those layers got revealed in the self-healing session, in the channeling session yesterday. And so after the session ended, it was a very long and very powerful session. A lot of wisdom came forth from the higher realms, which is where my consciousness, the consciousness is always the soul. I haven't done one of these in a long time, so it's odd. I've been just doing the channeling, so this is like, I gotta get used to talking like this again. The consciousness is the soul consciousness, where it is awake, exactly, because even the consciousness here is the soul consciousness. It's just that the stream also still goes through the egoic mind, is identified there, and has that quality, has that flavor, has that, yeah. And when I channel, I access and open the channel, I tune in to higher frequencies, higher consciousness that streams in here. And that is the soul um, it's connected with my soul. It's my soul definitely at the consciousness level where it is awake to itself. But it always feels like it's group consciousness. Like it's not, that's why I can't say I oftentimes. It's most of the times it's just coming through as we. And also, if you think about the oversoul is the next higher consciousness soul of the individual soul, where the individual soul is a fractal of that in a 12th. So there are 12, in that sense, 12 individual souls that make up the consciousness of that soul collective, which is the oversoul. And so the oversoul has the consciousness of all 12, but now think also take into account that an individual soul is split into two, because every individual soul has a twin soul. And so actually the individual soul is both of them, because it's that individual soul in two bodies having completely different, and then the conditionings, experiences, imprints, completely different, but it is the same soul that fragmented into two. And of course the fragmentation is only on the form part, but on the non-form there is no it's always connected. It's always, that connection is still there. Yeah, okay. Anyways, that was about the channeling. And then also with the channeling, it always feels like me. It always feels like just higher consciousness coming in. And it's also very possible that there are, because I open to that there are other consciousnesses that are spirit guides, that are, like ascended masters, that are beings that are in the non-physical realms, in the higher dimensions to us non-physical, that are overseeing, that are supporting, that are helping, and they may also stream in their consciousness when it's helpful. So anyways, what was fascinating, was that after I finished the session yesterday, even though the session was like this huge turnaround, this huge opening to see like why this happened, and why I was feeling this deep terror. Like it was so deep that I felt totally not safe in the world. That's how deep it went. It was like I was estranged even from my apartment. I did not feel even comfortable within myself. There was that deep of a divide within me that I made contact with, because basically it was an aspect of me, or several, that were vibrating in that frequency of fear so deeply, in such a divide from source. Soul is in unity consciousness with source, and feels that, knows it is a part of source. So there is no, in the soul where it remembers itself fully, there is no fear. And through this event triggered this deep seated fear. And whether that came from previous lives, whether it was also within my own life, and then it can also be from the lineage, from the ancestry line, that it just had that code, it had that flavor. And because what the situation was represented was that there is this overpowering, or a huge power, a huge company. Yeah, it's a multinational company, similar to governmental structure. So there is an authority. Yeah, there is an authority, and you don't know if you can trust it, and you don't know if you just signed away, something that that you never wanted to give up. Some kind of power, rights, things like that, you know. You don't know if you were duped. You don't know if you were had. It's that insecurity of being at the mercy, you know, and that feeling of disempowerment is so strong. So, okay, after the session, it continued, and I was like, wow, I just had this session, and I know better, you know, I know better, and that truth, that wisdom, the knowing is there, and you know, there is already the part in me that is fully embodying that. But the thing is, you have to feel it. I mean, that is at least my way. That is what I have, what I know, what makes sense to me, and in my experience, that is the way it is. That as these energies of these fear-based vibrations within us, as they are released, they have, first of all, they have to get triggered to be released. And if I react to them, again, if I identify then with that negative emotion, the emotion that is coming from the egoic mind, from the separation mind, from the fear-based mind, from that identification with someone that is not fully in safety, that is not source, fractal of source itself, then there is a lot of fear. Okay, where was I? Right, okay, so I was awash in it. Right, okay, yes, exactly. If I react to it, that means I'm identified. And there will be those, because all of the aspects that do feel afraid, they are identified. So how do they get unidentified? By remembering the truth. How do they remember the truth? The truth holding space for them. That is the soul. That is who you really are. That is your truth. Is your soul, and the soul is the divine source vibrations coming through, you know, trickling through all the forms that you are in the higher dimensions, coming all the way down to this tip of the iceberg physicality here. And collectives, exactly, the soul collectives, the soul collectives, the soul collectives. So as these identified aspects of us get triggered in their fear, the non-identified, the ones that are in the knowing of the truth, which came also through in the session. And you know, by doing the session is like bringing that forth really into the forefront of awareness. And then to be able, once it's birthed into this awareness, to be able to always have access to that, always remember that when the identification takes place. And the way that they get remembered, and thereby that fear in the body gets released, is by holding the space for it, by being the space for it. I don't know any other way. I really cannot imagine any other way. And then what it literally does is the energy, wherever that is manifesting and expressing in the body, because there's going to be a tightness in the body somewhere. And this was like solar plexus, I am, and you know, sovereignty, solar plexus, and then down into the navel. And literally they, you know, lots of movement there, lots of, it's triggered, but then also what happens with the remembering when you hold space and you embrace them, you sit with them. Simply you are the witness of them. then you can literally feel how they travel, how that energy travels into the heart chakra, into the heart space. And when you can feel the release. And with that release, the heart chakra opens again. And it opens accordingly to how much was able to be released. So that was going on. But it was so strong that it was hard to feel the part of me that was holding space. It was like a thin layer was holding space, but so much of me was still identified. So I was, but then, you know, my mind would help me, which is not the egoic mind, but the, you know, my soul mind, or my higher self would help me, would constantly come in and say, hey, you know the truth. You know what's going on. Remember, we did it in the session. You know what's going on. Just, it's actually the being grateful for, remember that you're actually grateful, because I did ask that morning. I had a really very powerful prayer that morning to ask my team light to help me dissolve the disempowering and the tightness that I feel in my solar plexus, which has been there for forever. Like, as long as I can remember, there has been this tightness there. And and to help me open my heart all the way wide, And that's why it was like, so that's how it came. That's how it came with those two, with the two guys from the telecommunication company, which I thought they were, I didn't think that they were like trying to acquiesce, I thought that they were a different category, because that's how they came across, that we actually didn't have much choice because everything was going over to the telecommunication companies anyways within the next months. And it's just that if I didn't do it with them now, I would have to do it myself, the switch, and then it would cost me a lot of money. Yeah. So it came in such a form, that you wouldn't expect. And so all night I felt the terror inside of me. It was strong. It was strong. Next morning I got up, and it was already, what was a little bit better, because the terror was still there. Terror, so much fear, was still there. But I did notice that I definitely gained a bit more space to hold, to be able to be present for it. And I definitely, it's all relative, because actually a huge amount had shifted, but I still was feeling it was still there. Yeah. And but once you have sat with it for a certain amount of time, and then you also have to see that where is the part of you, because again, that's the egoic mind, and that's then actually blocking the release. Where's the part of you that is resisting these emotions? Because that's the entrained, the conditioned way to meet these unpleasant fear-based emotions, is to resist them, to push them away. I don't like this, and to then recognize that and say, I do want this. I do want to feel this. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming, and welcome to my heart. Welcome home. So to go back into that welcoming, and excuse me. So the next morning, exactly, I was just about to sit back down for another channeling session when I saw that I had gotten an email from the provider, the internet and phone company provider that I'm with, that I was with before I signed the contract over to the telecom, and switched to them. And it said, we would like to, you have like 3 days time to call this number to discuss the next steps, because I canceled my contract with them. And it somehow it felt like I want to do that. Yeah, I want to do that, because it was also, the letter was so gentle. The way it was written was like, you have this opportunity, it wasn't like, I don't know, it just wasn't any aggressive marketing or anything. You have this opportunity, and we would like to discuss the next steps with you. Okay, so I called there, and I got a really nice customer service representative. I mean, sometimes you really wonder, the quality of people, the intelligence of people that work in a job that I could never imagine doing, sitting on the phone like that every day, And anyways, and he listened to me, because he said, so why did you want to switch, And I said, okay. And then I told him what had happened, and I told him what they told me. And then he said, yeah, that can happen, and that happens a lot. And he told me, it's like he rectified the whole story. He rectified and showed me that they had twisted the story in such a way, and that's just one part, is how they twisted the story, how the situation, and it must have been so practiced. And then also they had not just the way they told the story, but also the way that they presented themselves and everything around it, and how they told the story, that it created this impression that, well, I would be stupid if I wouldn't sign this contract with them, right? And he explained all of that to me, and then he rectified it back to the actual facts, that no, anyways, I'm not going to go into it. And I was just like layer by layer, oh my gosh, yes, I totally fell for it, And then he said, yeah, but I can offer you, I can offer you this and this and this. And I said, yeah, but I just signed the contract with them. It's final. I mean, how can I switch? He said, oh, it's just one button for me and it goes back. So I'm like, what? You mean I can just undo what I did yesterday? Yeah, it's no problem. And I had no idea that was possible, because I always thought once you sign, it's done. So here is the short of the long of the story, and that is that he offered me a deal that is much better than what I have right now. Okay, 3 times faster, the internet, and a better cable. It's okay, and more stable cable line, and paying 10 euros less than I'm paying right now. So, of course, I was very happy to take that offer. And here's the thing. Now I'm sitting here, and I'm about to have a much better condition, paying less and getting more with the company I've been with. And why? Why is that? If they wouldn't have come, if these guys wouldn't have come, and if they wouldn't have been so fox sly, so cunning, exactly. That is truly cunning, yeah? If they wouldn't have been so cunning that I would have signed their contract, I would have never had this better deal. And not just that, because that's just the outer expression of how it switched from like a negative experience into a positive experience. This is just the outer physical hardwired or hardware presentation of this. With it came like a whole therapy session, a whole workshop that helped me to access, get in touch with, and release so much fear inside of me. So much fear inside of me, and grow again my alignment, come more into alignment, grow again more the connection to the soul, by being able to access it, by remembering through the remembrance, and like that wisdom, that knowing that how it doesn't matter what happens in your life and how it looks in the beginning, how it may look. It's always about regaining soul. It's always about remembering soul and expanding your consciousness, expanding your conscious awareness of your truth self, and releasing fear. In the end, it's always about that, because it is your fear landscape within that finds its match, that draws those situations in that will trigger it, So I just wanted to share the physical outcome of it, how amazing that is. And how also technology reflects that, like these kind of everything, life, there is not a part of life that is exempt of reflecting your state of consciousness. Yeah. And when I say state of consciousness, like your inner the emotional landscape is also the state of consciousness. Because the emotional landscape is an expression of your state of consciousness. So how much of you is still identified in this separation, egoic, fear-based mind? Like I'm this small being, powerless, faint, disempowered toward governmental structures, authoritarian structures, And this is an imprint for many of us, also coming from the childhood where we didn't feel safe with our figures of authority, and we get to, in our grown life, we get to always revisit that in order to come back to the truth of who we are and release that. And this being imprinted and then releasing that conditioning, that false, it's like being initiated into and incarnating and bringing your consciousness through the egoic mind, and having all the conditioning pull your consciousness into the egoic mind and into the fear-based consciousness and self-awareness as a separate being. And then later in life, when we revisit that through the triggers, and thereby have then the opportunity to remember the truth and to release these negative emotions through this process. That is how the soul embodies. And as the soul embodies more and more and more, which means in a body wakes up and we become aware of who we truly are, and then what happens is it's like a lucid dream. And in a lucid dream, the characteristics of a lucid dream is that you have no fear, zero, and you're one with the dream. And the dream just morphs and morphs to your highest alignment, to your highest joy, to your highest desire. It's like it's so in sync with you. It's completely in sync with you. And it's so beautiful, and it's so much fun. It's like every moment of it, even if you just stand like this and just check out the environment, like, oh my God, I'm awake. Oh, it's so exciting. This feels so good, And yeah, and that's exactly what we do in the physical by healing ourselves and by remembering the truth is we are becoming more and more lucid by embodying the soul. Because it is just, like Rumi says in the poem, we are love, and it's just about finding those areas within us where we don't feel loved and where we don't love. Because when we don't love ourselves, from that stream of the soul, from that belief in the egoic mind, we can also not love others truly, freely and unconditionally. Because as soon as it's conditioned, it's not really love anymore. That's different. Yeah, I mean, the conditioning, it's like it hijacks the love. It's just like the egoic mind, through the identification, it hijacks the soul energy, the soul consciousness goes asleep through the identification. And with that embodiment, with the remembering, and that then expansion of knowing, and then your awareness, your consciousness, ever more comes from the truth rather from the egoic mind, which is also based in, because it was created out of this inverted matrix system where everything is in the reverse, because it's based in separation, which is the only lie. The only true lie, the base of all lies in the universe is separation from all that is, from consciousness, but really, So all the consciousnesses or aspects of consciousness, fragments of consciousness, streams of consciousness that are fear-based, that come from, I am separate from all that is, that's where consciousness is asleep. They're not living in the truth. And so that is where light is blocked, because the light is so densified. It's blocked. It's so densified, yes, through the fear that comes with this core belief of being separate from all. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it. That's what I wanted to share, how, I never saw that coming. And what an amazing journey that was. Oh my God. And it's like when I was in the fear, of course, every time you're in it, you kind of think you're never going to get out of it. And that's where the trust comes in, from doing this several times, and every time you get more trusting that, okay, I know it feels now like it's so deep, you're never going to get over it, you're never going to dissolve this and get out of this, but I know better, I know better, and this is just going to last as long as it lasts, and I'm just continuing to hold the space. And boy, was that an expansive journey that brought forth, I can feel it, again, expand in my trust in life. And that's just so beautiful, and that's why it was just 33, yeah. So that's why I wanted to share it.